So here's 10 reasons why businesses fail. The first one is ignoring customer feedback. Sometimes our ego is like, oh, we're the best at what we do, and sometimes we don't want to hear that critical feedback. But unfortunately, sometimes your clients or your customers know you better than you because they're the ones in the trenches. They're the ones who are experiencing it. It's the user experience that's important. In fact, if you look at a lot of the apps that are designed, the ones that do the best are the ones that with the best user interface that the user uses. Like, for example, if you look at iPhone, for example, have you noticed that when you buy an iPhone and you take it out of the box, there's actually no instructions? The instructions when you turn the phone on and then the phone's do, and then you follow the instructions. The user process is incredible because they start to use that product or service straight away. The second thing is underestimating the competition. In anything that we do, there are a lot of competition in what we do. Some people say, oh, I don't care about my competition. Well, I think you got to care because it's in your industry. And I get it. We don't want to model things that they do. We don't want to be in a situation where, it looks like we're copying what they do, but it's always good to see. It's always good to see how people are doing things different. That's why I love to travel around the world. That's why I'm on a flight right now. So I want to know my friends, one of my people in my industry doing right now that can really help give me ideas, because things that work in today's market don't work in 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and also to look into the future. That's why it's important to always stay on top of all the tech, top of all the strategies that happen. The third one that I find that's really important, and this is probably the number one thing that causes businesses fail, is they overexpand. They grow really, really fast. An issue with growing really fast is that sometimes more business comes in, that's great. You have more manpower to solve that problem, that's great. What happens if there's another lockdown? What happens if another thing crazy in the world happens? It's going to stunt that growth of the business. So that's why you have to always make sure that whatever you're doing, you've got to get to a point where you are growing organically with a bit of overexpansion. And also you want to have contingencies. So if that does happen, then what will you do about it? What is the fallback? What is plan B? What's plan C? And it's really important to have that. The fourth thing that I've seen a lot of businesses do that cause them to fail is they failing to innovate. That's actually part of human nature, isn't it? We get comfortable with things work, why should we change it? Well, part of business is we shouldn't fix what isn't broken. That doesn't mean that we should not innovate new things. So my little strategy for you is this: make sure that whatever's working, you keep that rolling in the background. And the thing that if you want to innovate forward, make sure that you're always looking at what are the new things coming in. How can you do things differently? What are some of the ways that you're able to really learn? And that's why you must be willing to invest in programs, invest in masterminds, invest in mentors and coaches. In fact, a really fast way to learn is to find someone who already has the result that you want and ask them what are some of the things that they're doing. For example, I had a friend of mine, I've always wanted to recruit a lot of ambassadors for our business. And this guy managed to get 5,000 ambassadors for his business in less than a month. I was like, how the hell did you do that? So I'm going to sit down with him and ask him exactly how he did it. But a lot of it involved automation and a lot of it involved artificial intelligence. The more I speak to my friends who are really successful, the more I see what's happening in the market. The next one is poor crisis management. There's going to be things that happen in your life. There's going to be things happening in your business. The issue is a lot of people, they have a knee-jerk reaction to it. And that's okay sometimes. Sometimes it requires that. But sometimes when things happen in your business, you just got to just take a sit back. Just sit back for a second. Take a breath and think strategically. Whatever you're going to do, there's so many things in situations I've been in where there's like this crisis management where I almost had this knee-jerk reaction and I just sat back. And luckily I did, because had I had that knee-jerk reaction, that whole situation would have played out completely differently. So sometimes when times get tough, when you feel that inside, oh my God, all this stuff's happening, and then you feel overwhelmed, you feel anxiety and anger, sometimes you got to sit back. It's like when you have an argument with your friends or your partners and you write that text message and you're about to send it, you write that email. Before you do that, here's my suggestion. Go for a walk, have a cup of tea or a coffee, come back, leave it 24 hours, read the email or whatever message that you've written, and if it still warrants that, then send it. But what you'll find most of the time is that actually, I overreacted there, or actually that's a little bit harsh and maybe I shouldn't say that. This is understanding how to manage crisis. Number 6 is neglecting employee satisfaction and retention. Your team is you. Your team is your business. You are not your business. You have to work with your team. Like my team, we have a rule. We need to talk about the elephant in the room, and we need to speak transparently, and we need to speak authentically with how we're feeling. So if someone says to a staff member and the staff member feels upset, we out it. Hey, look, I noticed that I got a reaction from you. You're upset. Is that the case? Well, yeah, it's just I was a bit uncomfortable with this. Okay, so how can we make it better? Now, that's not to say we do that with everyone, especially your management team and your key players of your team. Like, they have to be happy. You know, there's a friend of mine once said to me, John, how do you have a happy life? And he said, you have a happy wife. And he gave me this saying, he says, happy wife, happy life. But it's also the same with business. You want a happy business, you have to have happy employees. Like my employees, I encourage them to implement some of the strategies that our students learn. I said, look, you guys want to make extra money, you should consider using this investment strategy that the speaker just taught. Could I use my relationship to get an exclusive class with him for IT? So these are the things you want to do with your team. If my team's had a bad day, something happened in their life, their personal life, they need time off, okay, go and take some time off. They have a lot of flexibility as well, but they work really hard. If you're neglecting your staff retention, in my previous business partners, no one's indispensable. That is true, but do you want to train someone from scratch again? Sometimes it's just sitting down and having the conversation, and you need to nip it in the bud. There's something I do a lot. When we have our management meetings, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It's actually a lot of headbutting. So this is one of the biggest lessons of the last 20 years that I can share with you that will really help you. 7, inadequate risk management. Now, business is all risk. Everything you do is risky. So then how do you make it not risky? You make it not risky by simply getting educated. So this is what we de-risk the process. When you de-risk the process, you know the potential pitfalls, you know what can go wrong, you know the people that can solve the problem, and you know what are the contingency plans that you need to put in place in order for you to really follow through and make it a de-risked business. Now, there's always going to be an element of risk. You can't control that stuff, but know that you've done the best that you can do to do it. A lot of people, they just go, I used to do this, gung-ho, not care about anything, and sometimes it works, but when things go right, they go great. When things go wrong, it's terrible. Number 8, misjudging market demand. Misjudging market demand. Every time people do business, I always say to them, create an MVP, minimum viable product. What do I mean by this? If you have thousands of people that are waiting to buy your product and service, you have an idea that people will actually go and buy it. Whereas a lot of people, they go, well, actually, John, I'm not even sure that this is going to work. They spend 6 months creating this thing only to find out that no one wants it, that no one wants to buy it. So you got to make sure that there is demand for it. That's why it's always good to do launch lists. Like Jeff Walker created the strategy called a product launch formula, where you do a pre-launch, launch, close, and then reopen again. That's how you do it. And you want to test it. So for example, with my new book, I say to people, hey, look, if you guys would love to read my new book, once it comes out, you can put your name here. Once it comes out, you can buy it. It's almost like you're pre-selling it. And this is the idea of this. So make sure you do that. Number 9, 40 strategic decisions. Sometimes when you do some strategy, you have to make sure that you've tested a part of it first. You have to make sure that everything that you're doing right now, that there are ways to create the strategy that gives you feedback that tells you that it's working. The mistake I see a lot of people make, they spend all this money on marketing. There was a guy who raised over 100 million. He put all this money into like all this research development. He didn't put any of it into the marketing or testing the market, lost it. That's a real shame. Everything that you're doing right now, make sure the strategy is sound. Aren't other people doing it? Is it working? Have you tested it? Have you tested a small part of it? What results is it yielding even before you put the big stuff in? When you do that, your business will have a much better chance of surviving. The last one, by the way, if you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave a question below. I'll personally come in and answer it. And if you subscribe to this, I've got some brand new content coming up as well. And also I'll link a video at the end to really help you grow. But this last one, ethical failures. Sometimes in life, you can make quick money. I know a lot of business partners that I've had in the past, a lot of friends and a lot of friends who tell me ways that some people make money, and they make a lot of money, but it's not the ethical way to do it. And so that's just short-term money. If you want long-term money, then it's not about get rich quick, it's about get rich forever. And a big part of that is creating a reputation, creating your standards. What do you stand for? What are you not willing to break in your code of ethics? And when you do that, it damages everything. You get legal issues that come in, your clients complain, you get bad PR, bad publicity, just from a few simple, unethical decisions that made you quick money. I've seen this time and time and time again. So if you want to create success and you want your business to survive, do you even stand a chance of surviving? 95% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. You want to be the 5%. And if you incorporate these 10 things I just mentioned, it's going to make a massive impact to you and your business. Really hope you found this useful. Like the video, subscribe, check out the link below as well, and I'll also link a video here.